started a bit late. We back
Ah,
on.
happens. So,
We live, we live, we
how
live, we live.
how have been the past 2 weeks been? Oh, episode number 58.
58. Last
58.
Saturday, we took a bit of our haters. I had, I think, a few Rotary events to attend. There's even
Yeah.
more happening this weekend. We actually had
Okay.
the Rotary president,
Okay.
Rotary International president. So this is sort of the global president of the organization. He's
Okay.
been uh, he's been in the country from Thursday. Today, I think, is his last day. Unfortunately, I've not been able to attend of any of those events. Um, I don't know if there's still like a rainy kind of a sound with my audio. Is it there
Yes,
or
slightly rainy, but non-intrusive.
yeah? Okay, hope it's. I know it's raining outside actually,
Oh,
but
so it's just picking the rain.
I don't know. I don't know why it's. There's that sort of.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, let's go.
But you can power
Let's
through
go.
it. We can hear it, but it's non-intrusive.
Okay. Okay. Great. So anyway, so yes, that has been some of the big things happening where I am in Kigali,
Okay.
Rwanda. Yes. How's your 2 weeks been?
This week we were busy with some. I don't want to go very much into it, but we've been having some litigations, seeing some legal advisors over one, two, three things here. But we did our the first trial run of the bike. I call it the first trial run for the second iteration was done. Feedback was the bike is very powerful as expected. We had a bit of we had two issues that we had to look at. Issue number one was issue with the lighting system. There was a problem with the aspects of dimming of lamps, but we took care of it. Then the next aspect would be, the handlebar. The frame stayed for a very long time without being operated. So the handlebar sort of got stuck in state direction. So when being operated, it felt stiff to turn. So that will be handled by just normal servicing. So what is generally left is just the casing to give it the aesthetics, because we had a discussion with Eric, that's my product designer. Our our key, what we call, there's something called manufacturing philosophy. I like that word, manufacturing philosophy. Manufacturing philosophy is,
That's probably the
I
first
like,
time I've had it.
yeah, it's I love, because somebody with my background in engineering, then the way I love some of these technical products. When I hear the word manufacturing philosophy, I just, my heart leaps, because manufacturing philosophy varies from company to company. When you deal with people like Tata, they'll say make it simple, cheap, and functional. When you deal with Germans, make it in such a way that if you don't maintain it as they want, it will collapse on you. But before it collapses, it will give you ample warnings. I think same with the other common European product is the the Swedish Scania and also Volvo. Expensive spare parts, but by the time the vehicle fails, you have received ample warning, so you have enough time. That is their manufacturing philosophy. If you go to the Japanese, Toyota, Mazda, their philosophy is very, very interesting. They build their products on the knowledge that there's a possibility that the owner of the vehicle, the customer, may not maintain that vehicle as described by the manual. So create some bit of leeway for some cheeky behavior. That's why when you go to among the transporters, especially bus transporters, there are people who will swear by Isuzu. regardless of its shortcoming. The people sisi tunakufa na Isuzu because the Japanese may even there's somebody will tell you mimi na Toyota Premium hatuachani. So their system make it, yes, they are very elegant, but they make it knowing that there's a possibility that whoever buys this vehicle may not maintain it as per the manual. The German manufacturing philosophy, you have to maintain it as we say, otherwise you are in deep shit. Uh, if you go to the Italians, Italians are more of aesthetics because no one will question the reliability of a Ferrari. As long as it
Yeah.
goes fast, it will go fast 2 days in a month. It's okay. It's a Ferrari. They are known for, but again, when it comes to things like pumps, the Italians came up with a very interesting pump because when it comes to pumps, the major one is called Grundfos, the German one, very expensive, lasts very long. Then there are Chinese. Okay. If you go to China, the beauty thing about China, they are very flexible. If you want something that will match German quality, they'll have it for you. If you have something that will collapse on day two, they also have it for you. They are just like a mixed match. They do what you want. Then there's an Italian pump called Pedrolo. Not, not as expensive as the Germans, not as cheap as the Chinese, but it fits, it sort of cuts in between and gives you what I'll call a very, very good performance, but not as expensive as the Germans. It's called a Pedrolo. So this is what we call manufacturing philosophies. So from our end, our manufacturing philosophy is called bulletproof elegance. Bulletproof is what I'll refer like this car, Mercedes W124. I call it bulletproof because it is very difficult to break down. But now, majority of bulletproof products tend not to be elegant. For example, the Land Rover Defender, the old one, very tough, very hardy, but you won't call it elegant. The old Land Cruisers that they normally use when they are going to Sheriff Mustafa's region, very tough, very hardy, but you won't call it elegant. But what we are doing, we want to specialize in products that are tough, bulletproof, and they are very palatable to the eye. That's why I came up with the word bulletproof elegance.
Bullet development. And I like that. I mean,
Because if you look at, let's say, something that is simplistic, that is functional, to get you from one place to another, I'll say a Pro Box. You can call it bulletproof, but it's nowhere near elegant. It is not elegant in any way. So we would want uh, going forward among our offering of products, every product available that will be offering by Time and Motor Corporation has a very strong aspect of elegance. Even if it will be making a tipper, someone look at that tipper, hey, this tipper looks nice. That's what we are looking at.
I think
So,
it's important to differentiate yourself with something that is different in the market. As you say, you typically find those two camps. Either you're in the luxurious aesthetics part, or either you're on the functional durability, looks and secondary. But people now, whenever they are buying anything, they want to see that extra or element to it. And this is one of the reasons why the likes of Apple still thrive. I mean, the phone still gives you the reliability that you desire, but still very appealing to the eye. It's a statement when you have it. You know, when you pull out your iPhone, from the design elements, from the look and feel of it, from even how you use it, you know, all that is all about how you define yourself. And it's good you came up with that, or rather, you brought out that idea of manufacturing philosophy.
yeah,
Um, I
it's a very beautiful
first
term
I
because
heard about it, but
because you see, a manufacturing philosophy, what makes it so powerful is that this is not something that you say it in a boardroom. Manufacturing philosophy is something that is ingrained in your workers. That's why when we are having our multiple discussions with Eric, Uh, now that, yes, Sharif Mustafa, karibu sana. When we don't want to go into the aspects of rushing, churning out one product at another. We'd rather stay even like 3 or 4 years dealing with electrical bikes. We even talked of a hybrid bike, and let our employees develop what we call muscle memory based on that philosophy. It is reliable, bulletproof, tough as nails, but it's elegant. So these are not things that you say when you're in an air conditioned boardroom trying to impress people. No, this should be such a way that when you walk into a production hall and you pick out any worker randomly and tell them what is bulletproof elegance, they'll tell you an entire paragraph about it. It's not a manufacturing philosophy, is not some catchy statement that is put on an advert or when you hear it in a boardroom or you're coming out to a pitch deck or on an ad. No, a manufacturing philosophy is something that even that guys who uh, I don't want to say I like be thinking futuristic. I rather instead of saying the guy who sweeps the floor, I'll say the guy who operates our floor cleaning robots will tell us, will give you like a half an hour talk about bulletproof elegance, and is simply the vacuum robot cleaner. The guy who makes tea, the people in charge of catering, they'll tell you when you told them what is bulletproof elegance, you'll end up listening to a 1 hour lecture. So it becomes ingrained. So by the time we have like the second wave of employees, it will be, it's like they get in and they find the guys who are there talking about bulletproof elegance doing what is called bullet, they are ascertain keeping each other in check in the concept of bulletproof elegance to a point where it becomes like breathing. So I no longer, me or Eric or George doesn't have to go around reminding people. It is even them who remind us when they see that we are sort of sleepy. Say, hey, Brian, you know, we are all about bulletproof elegance. Mbona boss hapo umeteleza kidogo? So it has to be, because I've worked in some manufacturing plants, and most cases there's some statement that is normally repeated over and over from people on the top, and most time we find them to be relevant, just some weird catchphrase. But if we
Buzzwords.
there's some buzzword too, but when it comes to situation mambo kwa ground, we're like "Huyu jamaa anaongea nini?" But we want to start it from ground up slowly at elementary level. So by the time we go to now coming up with, because we have quite a number, we've discussed about quite a number of products, because uh, from motorbikes to three-wheelers, we prefer to keep them electric. Then we're moving on to the hybrids. So by the time you are building a hybrid bus, the bulletproof elegance thing is just ni kama kupumua. The moment you, like, you teach your child how to brush their teeth, by the time they are 5 years old, brushing teeth, like, you don't go around asking, "Oh, wapiga mswaki." No, it's just yeah. That is why if you look at people like Mercedes, they they have they have produced a pickup. It's a double cabin pickup, but it's a Nissan Navara. So why do they do this? Because their manufacturing philosophy is on a platform of stylish elegance from their vehicles. Then it comes to when their trucks, powerful, also elegant, functional. So when you talk about a double cabin pickup, you are looking at a very huge reversal, because these are people of sedans and some SUVs, the ML class. Now, if you are going to talk about a double cabin in South Africa, they call them bakkies. You say now you're going to set up a bakkie. I think the cost of now coming up with a new concept, how are you going to, what is the statement behind this uh, double, because double cabins are more of muscle vehicle, not exactly elegant. Yeah, they look nice, but a double cabin pickup is not exactly the picture of elegance. And elegance is all about Mercedes. So the idea of sort of carving out a new philosophy, because as much as Mercedes are reliable, you can't call them as muscle vehicles. So that's why I believe, it's my belief that they just took the Navara, Chong up and apart, they put the badge and say, let's go. Same
And
collaboration.
I mean,
Same
that's
collaboration.
why it's
Yes, yes,
important to differentiate yourself.
yes,
And, as you're saying, manufacturing policy sort of embodies everything. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not just a catchphrase that, as you say, you plaster on a wall, but it should be evident in how you work. Even as you were talking, I think the term that came to mind was culture. So
yes,
that should be the sort of culture is that defines your organization. That should be sort of, I think the other term that I was also thinking about, oh, it just escaped me. It came as I was talking about culture. But the whole idea is it's much more than talk. It's more of the being. It's more of who you are. Um, there are certain things, even when I think about, I think when you talk of philosophy, I think it covers everything. You can have a philosophy around your organization. You can also have a philosophy that defines you personality wise. And I think the philosophy also becomes sort of the guiding principle. So even when you're thinking of what kind of lighting do you put in, again, that bulletproof elegance philosophy will guide you in designing that, because it should be seen in how you build. You know, as you are talking of actually Mercedes Benz doing their own double cabins or pickup trucks, we we don't know Mercedes for that. I mean, if you talk
yes,
of a Ford,
mm,
That's what they are known for. And it's good to just stick in your lane, as you say.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
stick
and
in the lane.
if you're into that stylish elegance, known for the most stylish sedans, then stick on that. I mean, come to think of it, have you seen a Toyota truck, like a lorry? I don't
They
think I've
used to
seen
be
one.
there a very, very long time ago.
Hmm.
And if I'm not wrong, because they used to look like, this old Isuzu TX, that long nose.
Yes, yes, yes.
They used to look like that. Then they disappeared. Then they had a very small bus called Toyota Dyna. Then the biggest they ever went is this Costa. But in terms of trucks,
I know Costas.
these are just
Costa,
Toyota minivans, sports cars,
yes,
sedans.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And they probably must have maybe experimented a little bit on that kind of segment of vehicles, but I think
Even,
probably they
even,
later came back to their senses and realized, what are we known for? I do know for sure, like Ford company, I think there's a line of vehicles they decided they are no longer going to ever produce, because they are just known for pickup trucks. I think that's their biggest segment, and that's what they own and command and dominate in. um, so if you think of the area that you're good at, and this is also coming back, because I'm sort of trying to tie manufacturing philosophy to sort of personal philosophy.
yeah,
It's knowing yourself well to know what's your lane.
yeah.
This
It's like,
definitely is, and
and
I,
then
I
also
would rather that than this other thing. Yeah.
in terms of like culture, majority of Japanese cars, the ones that are there are majority are okay. We have the Toyota VXs and whatnot, but they sort of believe in sort of frugality, not being boastful.
Mm,
So they normally
yes.
there's this called a K car. It's a small car. That is why
Yes.
I'm made to understand big vehicles like the Hilux pickup. They're not even made in Japan. They are made in Thailand. The
Oh,
production line,
really?
the production
Mm,
line for Hilux is in Thailand, because they looked at maybe all the range of facilities they have, and maybe that site in Thailand had an existing unit, and they said, okay,
yeah.
let's put it here. It's like
Yes.
we've had a discuss. We normally have very long discussions with Eric, and we say, look, uh, we may talk of building, having a factory and whatnot, but you already have a place called AVA, Association of Vehicle Assemblers. These are people with a very long muscle memory of putting things together. So even if it's creating employment, obviously FVA will employ more people, so that we now focus on R&D, sales, and customer service. Very much like this company called Volta Zero. They make uh, medium-sized rigid electric trucks. They don't have a manufacturing plant. They say they have. Europe has quite a number of manufacturing platforms. All you need to do is provide them with the R&D data, which is of course with an NDA, your research data, design. Then they'll work everything out. They'll give you their costs, work out targets, so that the people at Volta Zero are concerned with R&D, product development, producing new
Design.
iterations, plus of course the very important customer experience, the UX. I consider UX to be very, very important because, in the words of the late great, what is this guy of Apple? What is it? The guy who died,
Steve,
Steve
Steve
Jobs.
Jobs.
It
Mhm.
is the UX which drives the technology. It is the user experience that drives the technology. Assume that
Right.
you are the one facing this phone. As the customer, what do I want to see? Now, the guy sitting on this motorbike, when you are mounted, what do you want to see? What do you want to feel? When you are riding, what experience? That is the feedback to drive the technology. That is why when we had some discussions with a guy called Cyprian, that's our electrical guy. Initially, I'd thought of, when it comes to regenerative braking, that way you recover energy to slow down. My initial thought was to have a button you press so that you slow down. But he, being experienced, went ahead and combined the regenerative braking with the normal paddle. Because why do I want to have my rider with a very weird thing that ukifinya hii inapunguza speed? We want this rider to have the normal feel, what he normally does, non-disruptive, so that when he presses the paddle, it will initiate the regenerative recovery for a while, then go to normal braking. Because that is part of the UX. You don't want to feel that the rider has to go to read a manual or watch a video for half an hour for him to understand how the bike works. There are people, this is a commercial bike. Apart from just a manual that will go through for 2 minutes or a 1 minute explanation, you should turn the key and zoom off. Minimum hustles. You don't need a diploma to ride your product. It's a very
And
different.
it's interesting how you spoke of the Japanese sort of philosophy that guides them, and you mentioned the concept of frugality.
Hmm.
And I was watching something on YouTube about this couple that they do like doing this RV, these motorhomes,
Yeah,
and they travel to different remote
recreational
places.
vehicle.
Yeah. So this time they're in Japan, and one thing that is so evident as they show the sort of the environs, you can see those small tiny cars.
K
Everything
cars.
looks small. Even the RV itself just looks small compared to sort of the American experience, which is the big muscle
Huge.
cars. Actually, when you talk of muscle cars, it's
Americans.
almost
Ford
synonymous to be
Mustangs
talking
and what
about
not.
Americans.
Hmm.
Yeah, even Toyota had its own version of an F-150 Ford, which is, I think they
Yeah,
call it the Tundra.
yeah.
And as you say, you will most likely not find those being produced in Japan. They'll mostly be produced in a plant
The
in
American
North America
production
to
lines.
serve, that market. So because the entire platform has to be designed for
Afresh.
such a
Hmm.
vehicle,
Hmm.
and you definitely not find that in a Japanese setting where you have to sell for their local customers and maybe if anything export it to Africa. And that's why you find Toyotas are very basic. Yeah, just look at the dashboard, very basic, but you can see, that concept of frugality. You can see that concept of durability. I remember a good friend of mine telling me, I think it was that British car show. Was it? Is it called Fast Cars or Popular British? car show, they were now trying to test vehicles, and they would literally drop them from a crane downwards. And one thing they noticed with Toyotas, they did that
Mm.
severally and put the car on the road, and it still works. I mean that thing. I mean, and I guess that's why they thrive so much in Africa. They could have served Japanese for 10 or so years. They come to Africa, they still look good as new. You still find someone telling
If
you,
it
"Oh, my
was
car
a
is
if it
years old. That thing is still running."
if it was a if it was a modern German car and you drop it, structurally it will be okay. But the moment you
Yes,
turn the key, sensors will start blinking everywhere. The dashboard will
yes,
turn into a Christmas light display. Sensors from
exactly.
morning to evening. Over
And
engineering.
and and I, for Germans, I guess, because if you're possibly in a German setting or even in the European setting in general, the ecosystems are there for the kind of support that is there. And one, they mostly drive newer cars. Two, sort of the after sales support is there with
And
well
also culture.
established
And also
garages
culture.
and all that, and the culture for that kind of
Culture
a thing, where the culture of one, if
is
you
you
start
have to
telling
be
them, hey,
precise.
yeah, just
Like
imagine.
we're meeting at 8, let's meet. I expect you by 7:55. We are here. So whatever, that's why you normally say another issue of machines. When you are selling, ensure the product you are selling matches with the general culture of that area. That's why I
100%.
don't know. I think it's nearly impossible to find a Toyota Premium in German. I don't know, but I don't think you'll find
Yeah,
it
yeah.
there.
I
Yeah.
don't think you'd
The
find it.
Germans
I don't
want
think.
a vehicle that will inform them that you are due for service, blah blah blah.
Exactly.
It will inform you on phone that your coolant level, blah blah blah, from with some voice, whatnot.
Uh,
And then certain so you see when you're exporting a product, like you see that voice notifier. For Germans, it is very important the voice should be of a man, because in German culture, the men find it very difficult to take instruction from a woman.
mm,
So when it's a woman's voice, it's not like they'll get pissed off, but chances are they won't buy that car.
mm,
If you go to the Latin America, one of my favorite, in fact, the most favorite SUV, the Mitsubishi Pajero. When you go to Mexico, the Latins call Montero. Why? Because Pajero in Spanish they call it Pajero, which means a
mm,
wanker.
oh, it means a wanka. Okay. Yeah, the
So
J
you
is
go
like
there.
a Y or silent or something.
So when you say you're calling a vehicle Mitsubishi Pajero, they look at you and say, "Wewe unataka kuuza gari hapa kweli?" Sidhani, I don't think you have to sell anything. So when you're going to new territories, learn it. Like if
Those
we want to
cultural
push a product
new
to
and
Rwanda, we'll have to say our sales team will have to spend time there,
mm,
probably hang around riders or whatever market segment you are chasing after, whether it is riders, adventurers, hang around them. Get serious documentable research, si ile kuhang around mtaani tu kula njugu. Get documentable data that one can be held accountable, so that when you are having an issue with sales, we look at the data. You said hapa na hapa na hapa ni vipi, how come? So it's part of due diligence. And also when you look at the what do we call it, manufacturing, the general maintenance culture, should that vehicle be hardened enough? Because if you are going to account to a place where the riders are somehow extra cautious, or they are very diligent in maintenance, and they are very sensitive to product failure, you'll have to probably spend extra time before you take it there. I'm very sure whenever they are exporting vehicles to Kenya, say, Kenyans, kule ambao gari inaenda kokokoko kokokoko, usisumbuane nao sana. That is why there was a time There's this, I think, was it Nissan Navara or what? There was a very serious product recall in Europe, in parts of I don't know where. And for some reason, they say the ones in Africa are okay. Our culture sold us off because we are the kind of people, gari central boat imekatika, it's driving like a dog, inaenda na upande mmoja, wheels are wobbling, the gear rod, that top part imeng'oka, imefungwa na makaratasi. So to some extent, I'm not saying that you take advantage of people, but then again, a study of people's general culture and general maintenance culture, operations culture should tell you what to do. Like a vehicle like that Tata truck, it's a very basic vehicle. I'm very sure that Tata that is sold in Kenya, they can't sell it in Europe. I've ridden in that vehicle. That vehicle is just horrible to ride in. In fact, in one of my former employers, we had one. The vehicle is a 6 speed, no, it's a 5 speed vehicle. When you gear to gear number five, it's like it's calling for gear six. And you're like, mdosi amesema twende, twende. So I'm very sure those people at Tata, they're not stupid. If they are to, because I've actually seen a Tata bus in Spain, classy, top of the line.
Mm.
I'm very sure if Tata was to sell their products to America or UK or Sweden, I don't think they'll take these tippers we have there, this style, wauze kule. It will look completely different. That is why people like Volvo normally sell a flat-nosed, flat-faced vehicle. When they went to America, American trucking culture, they use long-nosed vehicles. Okay, now, I think Sharif Mustafa knows we have Peterbilt, Freightliner. What else? I know Peterbilt, Freightliner. There are two major ones I know in UK are Peterbilt and Freightliner. But funny enough, there's another Freightliner which is flat-faced called a Freightliner Argosy. But majority of American trucking it is long nose. So when Volvo went there, they don't sell a flat-faced vehicle; they sell a long-nosed vehicle. Where's the culture demand? And majority of American trucks they also like manual. That's why you normally have Volvo than vehicle than Eaton fuller gearbox. So these are part of the issues you have to look at. But then again, we have to also be realistic. For a company like us, we have to start by satisfying our own local market. It will be a very big shame. It will be somehow misguided when all of a sudden we start tailor making our vehicles to suit Ethiopia, I don't know, Burundi. Yet we've ignored that we have to flood our market local. That is why when you go to Germany, you'll find a taxi, Mercedes C180. There's ensure that before we talk of exporting, there has to be a strong element of Mercedes everywhere. C180 taxi, C180 police car, C180 name it. So as much as we talk of other cultures, which is okay, but this is something you actuate when you are sure that you have saturated your local market and you are beaten out all foreign competitors. That's how it works. You cannot
Yeah.
start
I mean, it's
conquering
important.
territories na kwako
Yeah.
kumeparuka.
I mean, even going back to that reference I was making of that YouTube channel I saw of these people going through RV adventures in Japan was the one thing you see across is Toyotas. They're
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mm.
So one, first and foremost, you have to produce for your own. And I think this is where Africa has actually been lacking. Because and there was, I think we discussed this, where a lot of our mindset are already so Western influenced. Because what do we watch? What do we listen to? We are in some that poor town in Africa, but our minds are like we are in New York or we are somewhere in Europe. So while we should be, influenced by our own, by the environment that we live in, so that way it will make us, produce products that respond to our problems, problems, products that are informed by our ways of working, ways of thinking. First and foremost, your first immediate customer should be the local market that you are in. And then from there you can then produce. And the good thing is, much of Africa has got certain similarities. So if you produce and it works well in Kenya, it will most likely also flourish in a place like a Uganda, a Tanzania, and others. So I think that should always be our starting point. We definitely need to be immersed in our own cultures, in our own environments, so that we can respond to those needs much more
Even
effectively. I was actually interested. I saw someone the other day, today, somebody that I follow who's saying is been invited to speak, and is speaking on a very interesting subject that he's quite interested in, which is how do we convert the research papers that are in our universities into a business. Many people have written a lot of thesis papers, things that are responding to needs that we have locally, but they're just there gathering dust in our libraries. You've presented a very nice research paper, is somewhere in a university, you've fulfilled all the obligations that you had for your course, but what if we were to take that and convert that into a business, into a product, into a service? So yeah. And I think there's a lot of knowledge there that we've been lacking in Africa. Yeah.
even even before we go to product, what about services? You can easily tell a restaurant that has a local clientele versus a restaurant that serves foreigners. The difference is like night and day. The local one, the waiter looks just funny, vitu vimeparara, things just look out of place. The one that is serving the Caucasians look top notch. What we are forgetting, majority of the Caucasians who come here in their country, they are normal citizens.
Mm.
And that restaurant in Kenya, which you are calling high class, kule calls just kawaida. Sharif Mustafa can attest that what we are calling here inaitwaje hii ya kuuza kuku, chicken something,
KFC.
KFC.
Can-
KFC in US is mama ntilie. Here KFC, you go KFC, you are blowing up Instagram asubuhi atulali.
That's
So what KFC offers just ambience. Beyond that, warm whites, whatever, and fancy kitchen equipment, si ni kuku na viazi tu. So why don't we have our own services such that we know that in Kenya, this is how restaurants look like, whereby when you're setting up a restaurant in whatever part of Kenya, interior design is a non-compromising part of the budget. That's our culture. Our restaurants normally look very nice, so that it becomes normal to go to a restaurant. You don't have to kusumbua watu na maselfie hapa asubuhi mpaka jioni, and you're just eating fried potatoes and kuku ya grade ambayo I don't know whatever that chicken was feeding on. I call it normalizing high standard, because what is high standards in Kenya, in another countries it's just another day at work tu, haina shida yote. So I don't know why we sell ourselves short, and these are cultures that we can develop. So, like, you can tell that this is a PSV for Kenyans. Then you can see the tourist vehicles, how they look like. Those mean they look nice, but ukipata Embasava najua hii ni yetu tu. And we are okay with that. We've become so much mentally, it's called defeatist. We have become defeatist. Whatever comes, hakuna shida. Something as elementary as cleaning your vehicle, making it look airy and neat, imekushinda, and you know very well hata ikiwa chafu, si your customers watakuja tu. Hii ni ya Afrika. So I'm trying to finding it hard where things went wrong, because I had a conversation with somebody who's very old. He's older than me. He used to live in East. I think he was living in Eastlands. He says in 70s, those guys who are cleaning the streets and the trenches, Iona Mtaro, they clean the trench, then they disinfect it. I'm very sure if you go to city hapo Kanjo waambie kudisinfect mtaro, they look at you and say, ati nini? Kudisinfect mtaro? Why? So I think we the same way a culture can die, a culture can be revived.
Yeah,
And the best people to
all
revive it
about
are,
training. You can all be trained into anything. Anything is learnable, as they
yes.
say.
And the people to take care of these are
Yeah.
basically private sector. Because government is not known for being creative. Those are just tax collectors. They collect tax and they'll do whatever they know as per public reaction. They know very well, like when you work, I don't want to mention names, it is expected that when you work in this kind of parastatal, you should be driving a VX after 3 years from illegal activities. And we are like, hiyo inakwanga hivyo huko. In fact, if you work there and you come out with just your pension na hujaiba kitu, they'll call you stupid. This guy worked there, he didn't steal. This guy is stupid. So this is a culture that we have, but it takes, I call it, private individuals. It's you not even avoid the activism. Just do as an individual. Set your own benchmark and give yourself 5 to 10 years and see how things work. And prepare to be labeled names. Jamaa kujifanya. Andrew anajifanya mzungu mzungu tu. Mzungu mweusi. Prepare to be called all manner of names. But they normally say initially they'll call you a mad person, then they ask you how you did it. That's how it works. Initially, do you normally say before you become a master, be ready to be called a fool?
Mm.
That's where most of us have a problem. You do not want to undergo that shame of being called a fool. You are trying out something, looks strange. Like when we were making the first bike, the Zio bike, those people, they was, hii kitu inakaa weak, hii kitu itaporomoka, yanguke, sijui nini. We said, okay, no problem. At least you are calling it weak, but you are not a representative of Honda. You are not representing Suzuki. You're just another guy, umelounge tu hapo tu unangoja kibarua. So it is what it is. As Sharif Mustafa says, we don't value our own. We really don't value our own.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I think that's so true, and I don't think there's anything else to add to that. You've put it so well. Yeah,
By the way, on
really. Yeah,
matters of
uh,
on
go on.
manufacturing philosophy, there's something very interesting about the Japanese. What I like about them, when they decide to go premier, they go premier like crazy. Like this vehicle called Toyota Century. Initially,
Mm.
it is the one
Like,
used by the Japanese premier. Now,
what
I
the
think
premier uses.
yeah, it's called Toyota Century, and now it's available to other private citizens. But initially, it was only built for the premier. Now, in fact, I shared it on Twitter. When you are for you to be employed in the Toyota Century production line, you have to come from Lexus. Lexus is the export division for Toyota, which is aimed for what do you call it, for America, because it used to be called luxury exports for US Lexus, because they are big. So Lexus
Yep.
luxury export for US. So you must, when you're applying, number one, you must be from the Lexus production line. If you've never worked in Lexus, find your way to Lexus first. Work there, then you'll be considered. After that, you've gone to the interview. First part is some interview I'm not aware of, but that interview, you are doing it to earn a slot in a 12-person exam. There's an exam that for that position, there are only 12 slots for you to do the exams. So if it is an exam room, there are only 12 seats. From those 12 candidates, they can only take one. So that if maybe there's a draw, those two have to do another exam mpaka mpite. But the rule is from the 12, We talk only one. Then once you pass, you have to put your hands for X-ray analysis so that they produce some sort of mold to Mobius. Yes, yes. So once they have sort of scanned your hands, they'll use that scan to build tools such that on the what we call the Toyota Century line, the working tools are shaped as per the worker's hands for traceability. So if it is a hammer, a drill, it is made exactly as per the profile of your hands. Traceability. That's
Really? Oh wow.
yeah, yeah. You are the hand tool utapewa tu nyundo tu. Hapana, they scan your hands. Then that scan is used to shape your tools. So your tools, your hands. 100.1% accountability. That's why
Yeah.
they are not. But I know one guy in Tanzania who has it. I think Bahresa. Bahresa has one. But India, I
What, a
think,
century?
yeah, he has one. He drove. I think he drove it
Yeah, but, they're not even
to
sold
Kenya.
in Kenya. Eh?
Huh?
Oh, are you talking about a century or Mobius?
Century, Toyota Century.
Okay.
Bahresa
Yeah,
has
I've not
one.
seen them actually live, I think. Are they even
Somebody took a
available? Are they even sold locally in
somebody
Kenya?
took a picture of it in a street in Nairobi. It was so I think
Oh,
Bahresa drove it here. So there's nobody in Kenya that I know owns Mobius made in Kenya. No, the Mobius 3, they are in Athi River. I've seen two, a black one and a white one. Along Mombasa Road, I've seen one, a black one. The Mobius project is quite commendable, but I think uh, there's a place where we had an opportunity to showcase our design skills, and we didn't take it. You see, that vehicle is from China. That actual Mobius, the ones they did on their own Walikoroga, but that actual vehicle is called the initial one is called a Jeep. Jeep. No. Ford Wrangler. The
yes.
initial one is called a Ford Wrangler. Then from
Hmm.
Ford Wrangler, the Chinese came up with the first called bike, BJ50. Then the Nigerians took a copy and they called it Innoson. Now, for Kenyans, my thinking would be since the vehicle is a ladder chassis is whereby it's like a chassis with an engine on top na magurudumu. Monocoque ni ile chassis imechomwa juu round kama what is a monocoque? Like which one? Like the Mercedes is a monocoque because the entire is one continuous shell. So they would have taken that ladder chassis, then gotten the best designers in Kenya, designed their own shape to fit it there. Because when it comes to manufacturing, give an opportunity to other professions. That could have been a very major signing for our design fraternity. People like my friend Eric. These are the indeed because one of the key elements of manufactured vehicle is the design. Like for example, when you talk Toyota Harrier, Toyota Kluger, Toyota Isis, this is just one vehicle with different designs. On that
Yeah.
Harrier has more trim and whatnot. So imagine the design spectrum or the group of designers who are involved in that single chassis. Kluger wako hapo, Harrier wako hapo, Isis wako hapo. When you look at people like vehicles like Toyota Corolla, no, Toyota Premio and Toyota, this other Toyota, it's a very common Toyota, I think, Meisau Jina. They look almost the same.
Hari
So,
ama gani?
no, indeed, the saloons, the New Shape
The salon.
Premium, New Shape Premium, there's another one, imenitoka kichwa, it's too common mpaka imenitoka kwa kichwa. So, this
Corolla.
as
So which one?
there's the Premium, then there's another one that is in the category of Premium. Is a sedan, very common sedan. Imetoka ukicha
Okay.
nitaikumbuka tu. Allion.
Allium.
Allion.
Ah, yeah,
Allion.
yeah.
Eh, these are just one and the same vehicle.
Actually, they're now producing premiums. Premiums now became the Alliance now.
The same is just word play, design play. Hii just one engine balisha hii chonga hapo kidogo. So you are giving opportunity for people who are vehicle designers to come up with that, such that that Mobius platform you can have the Mobius one, yeah, even Toyota Yaris, yes. So we have Mobius,
And
this
Yaris
Mobius
is good. I mean, Yaris is always in the
that
Safari
is
Early
Vitz.
Edition.
That is a Vitz now. Yaris is like a
Of it,
Vitz. It's an
yeah,
American
exactly.
Vitz. An American Vitz.
It's
The
an
same
American.
way Toyota Vanguard is an American. This what name is it? Mesau Gina. There's a when you go to America they give it another name. So
Mm, mm.
this Mobius platform would have been an opportunity for our design teams because there'll be Mobius 1, a team producing something. That I mean Mobius 3. Then you go to Mobius 4, just make some tweaks on the interior, ongeza nguvu kidogo, extra power. Then another team to design something more beautiful.
You know, the
That's how
Mobius
Japanese
story.
work. Eh,
What Sharif Mustafa here is alluding to, the idea that we don't value our own. Yes, I've
yes.
seen also a few private people with the Mobius, particularly this new Mobius 3, man. It's a pretty solid car by all
Mm.
measure. Um, but it just boggles my mind that no one in government, I don't know if they're blind to it. I don't know if they're entrenched in some system. I don't know if they have some very long standing agreements with the likes of Toyota in terms of these V8s they have, the Mercedes Benzes and all these luxury vehicles. I, I mean, I would expect, and I think the one person who took a stab at this was when Uhuru Kenyatta was the finance minister. You remember at the time when he said the official government car will be a big Volkswagen Passat,
Passat.
and no one would
1.9
be. And
liter.
just that, and that's the one thing that really popularized VWs in Kenya. I think from then they started popping out from everywhere, and it's just a simple thing because then that justifies people buying it, because if government is buying it in bulk, then it makes it easier now for the common mwananchi also to buy it. So
Imagine
if
47
Mobius
counties
is coming to
pointing
say,
them.
counties were to say our official car is this, government, our official car is this,
Parastatals.
Mobius would expand overnight because they have to fulfill that demand. So now they'll be talking of, okay, we definitely have to develop a bigger manufacturing. We definitely need to, grow our network in terms of dealership. We definitely need now to train more of these garages to be able to maintain our vehicles. All that, it'll be a ripple effect. And I would even want to see what would that mean in terms of employment. Anyway, I know we've discussed this. And not just that, the government could even use that opportunity to promote this outside of Kenya. I was surprised the other day. I think I was reading an article on the East African that showed that vehicle manufacturers in Kenya had actually grown in terms of their sales numbers. And it was out of not just local sales in Kenya, but from the region. Because, many of these people, if you're a big organization, you probably run a fleet of trucks. You need Isuzus. You're going to get them from General Motors, or rather the Isuzu company in
East
Kenya.
Africa.
So you'll have to be supplying both Kenya and then places in Uganda and Tanzania and others. So Mobius, out of the popularity in Kenya, when our Kenyan president is doing visits in Uganda, in wherever, is also selling the Kenyan brand, which comes along with the products that we produce. Anyway, it's a big deal, and I don't know why we've not taken that seriously. But yeah, hopefully
These are, I
somebody's
think,
hearing
I
and
don't
somebody
know.
will.
These are some of the decisions that, to some extent, you start questioning if we are really a sovereign state, because our decision making is very foreign oriented. We seem to be playing to a tune that is not ours. It's like all of a sudden, uh, America in their SUV fleet, when the heads of state or the governors, instead of using those, is it Escalade or what, they start using Japanese vehicles. And unheard of. It's like Germans start using, I don't know, Mitsubishi instead of the BMWs. Unheard of. So Kenya, we have a vehicle that identifies with us. It is not part of any government fleet, not even one. Which begs the question: are we really sovereign?
That's a good question to ask,
Hmm.
and a good point to also close our meeting, for rather our live for the day.
Mhm.
Very very good discussion points, which started off with manufacturing philosophy that dovetailed in our own personal philosophies and went on to organizational cultures, to talking of do we treasure our own,
Yes.
that thing. It's amazing, and man, it boggles on my mind because these things are so basic, but yet
We take it like trying to chop down a tree. We keep on chopping, we keep on talking until maybe somebody stumbles upon this channel and says, able to skiza hawa tu."
these
Because you see,
knuckleheads or these mad
when you
guys.
when you you start chopping a tree, then you leave it halfway. You know it can fall on someone. So now that we began chopping, we chop too, Sijali. You have to continue. I've never seen a halfway chopped tree, no matter how thick it is. People start. So let's continue having this discussion. Let's continue pushing, prodding, plus our very own individual professional endeavors to
Yeah,
carry the agenda, and hopefully something will give in. So
something will be.
gratitude to Sharif Mustafa, and can I say adios?
See ya.
Adios. See ya.